Welcome to the Hibbing Economic Development Authority regular meeting. Today is Monday, June 9th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order, 5 p.m. Everyone in attendance with the exception of member Egan. Adds and deletes, add 7.1c and delete 7.1b. Approval of the agenda. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Motion approved.
Motion made by Councilor Schweiberger.
Support.
Supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes. The first one, approve the minutes of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority meeting of May 12th, 2025. Can we get a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 12th.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk.
Support.
Supported by Member Cameron. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. The second one, approve the minutes of the special Hibbing Economic Development Authority meeting of May 21st, 2025.
Support.
Motion made by Vice President Juranis.
Support.
Supported by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. On to the consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Number one, approve the disbursements for the month of May in the amount of $877,250.43. Number two, affirm the Economic Development Loan Fund as of May 31st, 2025 in the amount of $1,391,521.03. Number three, set the next regular and workshop meeting of Heda for Monday, July 14th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read and published.
Motion made by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman.
Support.
Supported by Councilor Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now we're on to the presentations.
Excellent,
Betsy?
Madam President, members of the Commission. Tonight, the first presentation is by Jason Wabama. It's a request from Advanced Machine Guarding Solutions regarding the transition time this summer, starting at the beginning of this month, I would assume. Jason, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone again.
Hello.
We are asking to see if it would be okay to forego June, July, and August rent and maintenance fees. With the transition of getting into the new facility, we're starting to see our costs increase because of that. And then because of what's happened with the tariffs, our business is down about 50%. Obviously, none of us saw this coming. So we're asking to see if we can go on our current HEDA loan to interest only through the end of the year. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
Comments?
so we're going interest only until 2026 and forgive 3 months of rent?
Yes, and there's a $200 maintenance fee or something
Right.
on the building.
Is it interest only till the end of 2025?
Yes.
Correct?
Right, but John was referring to July 1, 2026, we'd
Right.
start
Okay.
charging again.
What's our delay in, Jason, getting into the building? What is the time frame in getting into the new building? I know we had about 30-some days of delays this year. I don't know what the exact amount was, but
Yeah, I mean,
that has played into part of this also, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely has. We
Yeah.
have not been, we've been able to store stuff there.
Yeah,
But technically, probably by the end of the week, we'll actually start to build this factory.
oh, okay.
But Todd and I might maybe argue with dates, but really 2 months behind
Yeah,
schedule.
okay.
So to get out of the current facility by August 31st, we have a whole factory to build ourselves here in the next 3 months.
Right. So your focus is gonna be on the move more than anything else,
Yeah.
Very good. All right, you answered my questions.
Madam President,
Member Jenna Hoffman's recommend?
Jason, what about your workforce? How is that impacted?
Yeah, so next week, we're actually going down to 32 hours for the majority of our office and production folks. So we're doing the Minnesota Work Shared Program. So instead of having to lay off 2 or 3, we're all kind of taking off 8 hours of our employment, so.
Okay.
And how many employees do you have?
19. And this is not just related to us. One of our biggest competitors laid off 18% of their workforce about 2 months ago. So it's a whole industry problem right now. Nobody's buying equipment because of the tariffs, so.
Right. But it sounds like you're trying to do things rather than lay people off. You're doing the 32 hours with Minnesota.
Yeah,
Work
we have a very good team of
Right.
19 folks. We don't want to lose any of them if we can help it.
That's good. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Jason?
So during that June, July, August timeframe, like, you're still gonna be manufacturing in the existing plant facility there?
We have to, yes. So, all of our processes are being rebuilt. So some of the equipment is coming over from the primary machines are coming over from the existing facility. But a lot of the equipment we first started with is antiquated. Even though it's 4 years old, it just shouldn't have been the way we started. So a lot of that is getting disassembled and sent to the scrapyard. So we're starting with what processes we have. We still have some delays with some of the parts, trying to get them here. So, yeah, we'll start manufacturing in both facilities by the end of this month. Just certain things we can move over right away, and some things we have to build.
Okay.
Jason, when do you figure you'll be full production at, when I mean full production, I mean all production occurring in your new plant only?
It will be August 31st.
Okay,
The-
that's
the
your
end-
new- all right.
When we have to get out, there might be a few processes that are not up and running by then, just because we're missing parts waiting for them to
Okay.
come overseas and stuff.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, I have connected in with the bank and with the IRRR, who are also lenders in this process, and the IRRR did indicate to me verbally that they are also doing what they can to shift to interest only, et cetera. So they are also partnering, and appreciate the city's partnership on this if you make that decision tonight.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Jason?
So I have a question for Betsy. Then if we go ahead and approve this, then are you going to communicate that back in a letter then to IRRR, something a little bit more formal than just a verbal,
We can, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that would be important to do so, so thank you.
Sure. And attach the minutes as signed, so.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, I think that's it.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you,
Thank
Jason.
you,
Thank you.
Jason.
Appreciate it. My second presentation tonight is the AMGS expansion update presentation with Carl Anderson. Todd Erickson is here representing, and we'll take you through the presentation in your packet tonight.
Perfect. Good evening. All right. Let's see here. Our agenda, similar to others: safety, schedule, progress, budget, and contingency. Safety, we still have not had a recordable or lost time accident on the project, so 10 months. Project schedule, Mayor Hyduk, I heard you say about the extension. That was a
Yep.
true statement. This pie chart represents the date that we agreed on, which
Yep.
is late July. So based on this pie chart, we would be 85% complete. I'll give you a better update on that
Okay,
to
thank
actual
you.
days. This gives us kind of till the end of July, and I'll show you why we think it's July 7th.
Right.
So, our current schedule, Jason has been over with his team from AMGS and given us direction on where his equipment will sit, where he wants it to sit, and how to connect it. So our subs are working on connecting his equipment for electrical, gas, air, that type of thing. As we noted in the last presentation, we had worked with Jason on a owner occupancy schedule, so we could get him into different areas. We've met all of those dates, exceeded a few of them. So as far as where we are with the project, next Monday, we will be meeting as a team, and we'll be doing punch list on the exterior. So that's on Monday, June 16th. We call it the site and civil. So the exterior of the building, asphalt paving, landscaping, that type of thing. 2 weeks, or a week after that, on Monday, June 23rd, we plan to punch list the office and the warehouse, the production area, the fabrication area. So that'll be on June 23rd. So essentially on June 24th, we'll be at substantial completion. So the time frame between June 23rd, when we do our punch list, and what we note as July 7th of owner move-in or turn over the keys is a 2-week period where we're going to work through punch lists and that kind of thing. Just make sure everything is done to their satisfaction. So current progress, I just came from there. The office is looking fantastic. The painting is done. The flooring is done. Plumbing fixtures are complete. The grid for the ceiling is installed. The mechanical teams are installing light fixtures, ductwork, fire sprinkler terminations into the ceiling. Out in the production area, all the major ductwork is up. They're working on connectivity to the units and to the exterior wall areas. They anticipate ductwork to be substantially complete June 20th. Electrical is on schedule, again, anticipate June 20th. All the exterior sidewalks and exterior grading is currently complete. And I noted asphalt paving was to happen today, which it did. I kept this in here. This is the owner occupancy. You know, they wanted to move in the first area, and I can't read that. That was in May. The green area at the top by the 1st of June, the middle area by the 1st of July, and then on the right over in the pink over there, the 15th of June. So a lot of the equipment is already staged in those areas, with the exception of phase 4, I believe. So, but that is the powder coat booth that I don't believe is built yet. So some pictures kind of explains a lot. Upper left is, well, all of these pictures are showing ductwork throughout the plant. So that's the major ductwork that is complete. Landscaping outside, upper left kind of shows the gravel outside the office, all that different paving going on, gravel paving. In the office, this is the wall finishes and the ceiling that, and up in the above the grid, you can see the ductwork up there and everything that's complete. Plumbing fixtures are set. Everything is installed in there. You can't see it very well, but in where the toilet facilities are, there is some resinous flooring installed in those areas as well. Sidewalks around the exterior, everything's complete. Interior stairs are all installed. The team on the right is the guys filling the stairs with concrete. They're actually painting those today, so those are complete. So, budget status. So I think I just noted we were 85% complete with the schedule. This shows that we're 81% complete with the budget, with the money spent as of the end of May. contingencies with the owner, with Heda's. They're remaining, there's 40% of that remaining. It's a really good spot to be with 85% of the project complete. And KA's remaining contingency is at 47%, so another good spot to be. So, any questions?
No, Todd, I visited a few times, so I've been kind of following progress. It really is coming nicely. Even the color palette in the offices and stuff is very, very nice. So.
They did a nice job, you're right.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, so. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, if I may, Todd, you got the email that I sent you about the install of the fiber to the premise, correct, from CTC?
Correct.
So I sent them your way to coordinate to make sure that they don't come in and take up any of our lovely new landscaping and things, so I hope.
They will.
Okay.
Because as the photos show, the grading is complete. But what we did is we put conduit underground from
Yeah.
the room where the communication will be terminated, and that conduit goes outside the building. So when they come in, they will be going through it, but
Yeah.
there's no other way around it. And I did reply back to your message and carbon copied your vendor, and just noted that where we are in the finish schedule, and they said, I believe, that it takes like 30 days to get in queue for them. So it'll just have to be restored. So do the best we can.
Fabulous. Yeah, that was something we didn't expect either. We thought they were closer by, and turns out they weren't, so. So I appreciate you helping with that.
Not a problem. All right, thank you.
Thank you. On to number 3.
Yeah, well, Madam President, members of the board, also an attachment to the presentation that you just received is the master project budget to keep you apprised of where the costs are coming in. So you can see that they are tying out exactly as expected. And then our third presentation tonight is the 400 block redevelopment proposal by Rebound Partners. We do have Jeff here, and online we will have a partner from there as well, Brett. So Jeff, if you want to approach the podium, and I believe there we go. Looks like we're communicating technology-wise here. In your packet is the presentation as well, folks, so you can follow along. Jeff.
Good evening, board members. I'm Jeff Braxton. I'm with Rebound Partners. I guess to start for some background, I have history up in this area. I was born in Duluth. My wife was born in Duluth. We have relatives, and I've done some development up in the Iron Range. Rebound Partners primarily is focused on doing impact investing, working with communities. Huge presence with the Smith Group or Smith Foundation that Tim Penny started, and we have expanded kind of up into the northern area here. Projects in Grand Rapids, Thief River Falls, Grand Marais, we just had a groundbreaking last week, Bemidji, Baxter, Brainerd area. So my focus really is, since I'm from this area and I know the area well, is to try to do as much as I can to give back. We work locally with partners, as many partners as we can do, whether it's banking, whether it's contractors. We're from Minnesota, and that's kind of what our focus is. Brett runs the companies. He can give you a lot more background, so as much as I could do, he's going to do a lot better. So if you want to bring Brett up, and he can start the presentation. You're on, Brett.
Okay, can you see that screen there?
We can.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, President Brock and the Hibbing EDA members there. Appreciate the opportunity to share today. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very excited to be here, very excited to be working or looking at a project here. What's that?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, very excited to be here on a project, a downtown project. We love working in downtowns. We'll share a little experience that we have on that. And what we want to cover today is, as Jeff mentioned, impact investing, what that means. Share a little bit about our organization and where we currently do work. Some of the things that we, the developments that we work on, how we structure a project, our real estate experience, a vision for Hibbing on the downtown project that you have there on the 400 block, and then any questions or comments that you have at the end there. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay. I gotta get my cursor here in the right box. Okay. As Jeff mentioned before, impact investing, and that's what we do. We like to go into communities, work with communities. You'll find that we partner, we collaborate, we do nothing alone. And with that impact investing, we like to work on projects, real estate projects that have a community return and also an investor return. What are the projects that community needs when it comes to real estate? Is it housing? Is it your downtown? Is it hospitality, industry? Where can we help? And then we like to work with local investors, raising money locally from individuals, companies, nonprofits that have investment portfolios along with ourselves in getting projects across the finish line. And there's a really good project up there in Hibbing on that 400 block that we'd like to explore with you. As Jeff mentioned earlier, where do we play? We're based in Northfield, Minnesota. I am the managing partner of Rebound Partners in the Rebound organization. As you can see on the screen there, we do, being in Northfield, we work primarily in southern Minnesota. This slide I'm very proud of. In 2000, we were in 2 communities. We were in Northfield and Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids because one of our partners, Jennifer Ryla Sawyer, was from that area, and we created a real estate fund there up in Grand Rapids. We had created one in Northfield. Our second fund was in Grand Rapids, where we built a Best Western. We also purchased a rundown apartment that we brought up and elevated, and then we also bought an empty building and broke it up into 4 sections and have a full building of 4 tenants. We raised about $3.5–4 million up there to work on those projects, very successful. And from that, from Northfield and from Faribault, you can see that since 2020, when we hired Lori Bonin to serve as our president, you can see the different communities that we've gone into. And Smith, Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, Tim Penny, every community that we went into with the fund, they invested $25,000. Not a lot of money, but they also provided network and contacts and such, so you can see from the last 5 years how we've grown, the number of projects that we've done, the amount of equity that we raised within these communities, the investors we have. And now we're really excited, as Jeff mentioned, to move more into the north, working with like Northland and Northwest Foundation and such, and along with others in the communities to work on projects. What are your real estate needs and how can we help? And that's what we'd like to do there. When you look at, and again, as I mentioned, we love to work together, private, public, coming together. How do we work together? How do we work on a project? When we look at this 400 block, of course, working with the city and the county, local investors, community leaders, the chamber. We have experience in working with the IRRB, both in Grand Rapids, also up in Grand Marais, where Jeff just said we had a groundbreaking for a 36-unit apartment. We had 100 people attend that groundbreaking. We had over 40 local investors that invested in that project. Very exciting project. And then, of course, our Revocity and real estate team. Again, we partner, we collaborate. We love to work locally, churning those dollars locally when we go into a community and work on a project. Some of our real estate experience, you can see in the middle there, we've done housing developments all the way from 20 acres to 120 acres. We love taking on old buildings and renovating them, bringing up to the highest and best value or best use. The left-hand corner there and right was the Exchange Building in Winona. It was an office, and we converted that into extended stays and also apartments. We've done new apartments downtown Northfield, the one in the middle there. Old empty buildings, 240,000 square foot empty building in Faribault, Minnesota. We created a fund there. We purchased it from Faribault Foods. It had sat vacant for 4 years. Faribault Foods had built a new facility on the closer to Interstate 35, and we broke that down into 10 sections, and now we have 10 different tenants in the space full of activity and vibrancy. We're into restaurants, downtown renovations, as I shared, hotels and strip malls. So we've done a lot of experience. And we can either lead on a project, which I think we would in this project in downtown Hibbing, the 400 block. I think you're looking for a developer. Or we also can help support other developers, other businesses in their real estate needs. I think in this case in Hibbing, we would start with this 400 block if we're chosen, and then go from there and possibly as a standalone project, and maybe over time create a fund and work on a variety of projects in Hibbing. We like to work on one, get it going, show what we can do, build relationships locally, and then maybe create a fund. Our company profile is we have Rebound Partners, which is really sort of an investment management company. We like to work on projects, make investments, and manage those direct projects when it comes to real estate and some other things. So we have our real estate group that works on development and acquisitions. And then this is what we created to create these real estate funds and projects in these communities outstate Minnesota called Revacity. And that's where, again, we raise capital and provide capital into these communities that we go into. A project very similar to what you went through with the fire. We had one in Northfield too. Ours happened in 2020, where we had a fire. 1877 Archer House River Inn, which we owned, had a fire and had to come down. And so this is a project very similar to what we would work on in Hibbing, where it's a mixed use. You can see some of there's the old pictures of the Archer House. You can see some of the new pictures. We will be breaking ground in September of this year. There's the back of the building on a river. You can't quite see the river, but we have a Riverwalk Plaza. We have a plaza here with different, a venue, different activities going on, and then also we'll have underground parking. We'll have a floor of commercial, restaurants, retail, second floor VRBO or extended stays, hotel rooms, and then 2 floors of apartments. So a similar mixed-use project that we envision for Hibbing, but we also want to, meet with the Hibbing leaders. We met with Betsy. What are the vision for that site, and how can we tailor a project that meets that vision? We also have done a couple projects in the works here. One is in Owatonna. Again, a very similar mixed-use project in downtown Owatonna on the river. It has commercial, it has a brewery, it has Olmsted Medical, and then it also has 3 floors of apartments along with underground parking on that. There's our 5th Street Loft. This is off from Main Street by a half a block. We built this 3 years ago. It was 100% full when we opened it. Now this is just an apartment with covered parking and then 3 floors of apartments. But we vision probably, and what we've been talking to Betsy, probably commercial on the main floor with living and such on the upper floors. So when we look at Hibbing, again, tragedy, having that fire, and we'd like to come in and help redevelop that site with the city, with other parties, other groups. We envision it again as a mixed use, residential component, commercial component. There is a need for housing, and we'd like to bring this property back into the community. You can see the layout or where it's located, 33,000 square feet, not quite an acre, about 3/4 of an acre. Good size where we can build some scale and some size to it on that. And again, as I shared, we're excited to have the opportunity to present and share, talking about our track record, what we've done in the past, particularly on mixed-use developments in a downtown. As I mentioned, we like to collaborate, we partner, we love working with cities, the EDA, other opportunities. What you find in these outstate communities is that construction costs are about the same, whether you're building in a community like Hibbing or Northfield or Faribault or the Twin Cities. Construction costs can be very similar. It's just that the rents, the model is these outstate, they can't pay the rents like they do in the cities, and that's where you need bank financing, gap financing, equity. You know, we like to have people invest in your backyard, where you live, where you work, in these communities where we have over 400 investors now in each community, maybe 20 here, 30 here, 40 here in these different communities. They take pride in the ownership of a property. Not everybody can own real estate. Here's an opportunity to own real estate in your community where you live and work, along with sometimes we get some heavy hitters like the businesses and industry that'll invest in these properties also. With that, I am going to wrap it up here and see if there's any questions. You know, a downtown Hibbing, it's almost like It's a Wonderful Life, Bedford Falls, from that movie with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. So you got a good place there up in Hibbing.
Hey, Brett, can you grab the picture of the verticals? And I'm just gonna fill in on some things. So one of the things that I wanna drill down into is we have history, background in working with historic sites. So the hotel that burned in Northfield itself was a historic site as opposed to a historic block. So there were a lot more hurdles, a lot more red tape to run through to get it redeveloped. Burned in 2020, as Brett had said, and we're just breaking ground, I think this month?
September.
So we know how to get through and push things forward. I realize this block has been vacant for over 10 years. We would love to step up and try to move it forward as quickly as possible. But we have gone through historic designations. We know how to handle it. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the investment that we start, or the funds that we bring in, work as a gap financing tool, where a lot of developers will come in and rely upon banks and other initiatives, whether it's the IIIB or IRB or grants or funding. We create a separate fund which participates as an additional gap financing tool, which gets us quicker to closing than most other people are able to get there. But the verticals, which I wanted Brett to bring up, shows kind of our breadth.
Okay.
That's all right.
I don't know if the verticals,
It wouldn't be in this slide, it would be in a different slideshow.
Yeah, it's not on here.
Okay. So we have verticals, meaning we have separate entities or separate internal groups. One is hotel, hospitality, one is food, beverage, one is storage, one is multifamily. We've also done single family. We do, what am I missing, Brett?
We do some property management, brokerage, and leasing.
And we're involved in engineering. We have an engineering group.
And an
architectural
architectural
group.
firm, a senior co-op firm,
And the senior, that's what I was missing. So we have a senior group internally that operates within our group. They build and manage the facilities.
And again, we can lead with the different components, verticals that we have, and then but we also can work more locally if there's developers or drivers within the community too. In each community, each project stand on its own. It's not cross-investing in different communities. Each community in each project stands on its own. In some communities, we've raised 2 million, some we've raised 5 million. We've had some pretty significant investments from local companies like in Austin, Hormel committed $5 million, Federated Insurance in Owatonna, $1 million, Fastenal, $1 million, St. Olaf Carleton College, $1.5 million. These companies are investing in their community because they want to have, you know, housing for their employers or a nice hotel, a branded hotel, and they want to help elevate the community when it comes to these different amenities for their employees and for the community itself. Questions or comments?
Madam President? So when you talk about a multi-use building, or a mixed use, I think is the term you used. So it could be commercial on the bottom, it could be residential, month to month, or renting an apartment, right? The next level,
Correct.
let's say. And then is there an opportunity for like a co-op or home ownership on the top level or something like that? Do you do a co-op or something like that?
You know, we take
Good
a lot of
question.
direction, I think, from the community directly, but, you know, Brett, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so you mentioned like a co-op. You know, there had been condominiums built in the past where you have ownership, but that has been few and far between because of lawsuits between the builder and the architect and the homeowner association. So there aren't a lot of those for sale versus rental. So these would probably be rental versus a condo ownership.
Okay, thank you.
And there could be, depending upon the financing and how it's set up, if there's tax increment financing, redevelopment, you know, a portion of these could be market rate, a portion of these could be affordable rates. It all gets in the details once you start a project and work with the city and work with the county.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair. Looking at this site, and you mentioned, I think 33,000 square feet, what do you see in this site? I mean, you just talked about different types of market rate or rental. I think you even mentioned some commercial down below. What do you see on this site? I know you just mentioned, well, we want to reach out to the community to see what they want. But you must have some of your own thoughts prior to getting involved in any community.
And Brett, you can expand after I'm done here. So we've seen the housing report. We know the needs. You know, we know the code as far as height. If we can go above the height and it can prove beneficial to everyone, that may be an option. But I think you know, the more housing we can provide, whether it's or combination of market rate and affordable, it's going to be a combination of everyone's input. We don't step in and just do our own program. It's impact investing. We want to grow locally. So we look for feedback, input to provide us moving forward so we can do multiple projects down the road.
Yeah, you're looking maybe at about 6,000 square feet, maybe of commercial space, you know, some parking, dedicated parking, and then also it could be, you know, 50, 55 potential apartment units. It depends upon, you know, working with the city, heights and that kind of thing.
So, I think in one of your pictures, there's a Starbucks there, right? So are there certain companies that like to follow you around as well as far as commercial?
Yeah,
I think
we
our
have-
preference is to work with local groups. So
Okay.
a Starbucks is great, but if there's a local coffee group, our preference is to have them come in, or have someone within the range area to expand, whether it's Evelyn, whether it's Virginia, whether it's Grand Rapids, Bemidji. That's our preference, but again, we will look at national.
Right.
Anybody else have any questions for Brett or Jeff?
Madam President, if I may. I just wanted to provide a little context. Jeff had approached me in my office. We had talked on the phone, chatted briefly. The IRRR had referred him my way to have a conversation because they were looking for development sites on the Iron Range. We sat down in my office. I gave him 10 different sites of all the different things we have going on around the community of Hibbing. And the first one that they wanted to look at was the 400 block redevelopment to come and pitch to you all because we were in a process of looking at redevelopment of that block. So that's how he came here tonight. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of context about the fact that their other verticals could potentially assist in redevelopment around the rest of the community. So as you're around our community, keep that in mind and a conversation with Jeff about the potential for redevelopment. I have presented some of our other projects to him as well, which they will be taking a look at after this one, so.
Madam Chair,
Thank
another question. Jeff, what is the time frame on, when I look at the projects you have throughout the communities in southern Minnesota and those in northern Minnesota, what is your start to finish time frame on most projects?
Brett could probably finish that up, but I know in this case that we've got to be in front of, we've got to work through a pre-development agreement to get back in front of the IRRB by July so they can finish their presentation, I think by September. And so we will meet those deadlines. As far as the construction itself, it's going to be dependent upon, I don't think we've ever put out a project that, and even during COVID, I think we were able to meet some deadlines. Is that correct, Brett?
Yeah, we completed quite a few projects during COVID. We did, experience growth during COVID, of course. It really, what is the timeline of the city? Normally, when you go into a city, look at some sites, raise some capital, work on some projects, depending upon the project, like a hotel, it's about a 12 to 14 month build. Apartment, pretty similar. So a lot of times it does take up to 2 years, but maybe because of, how far along you are, in working with you, and if we are chosen or whatever process to go through here, it would be great to be able to break ground next year.
Hey, Brett,
I don't think
know
you'd
the
be able
exact
to break ground
timeline.
this year.
What was the process for the Northfield apartments? I know that they were fully leased before we started groundbreaking.
Yeah, that was about it was a 13, it was about a 20-month project, 20 month.
And that was how many units, Jeff?
We had to assemble some property. There were 3 properties involved that we had to assemble with the city, and then go before the city the planning commission and working with city staff, and then go through the different commission and the council and such, and the development agreement, and then it was a 12-month build.
Okay.
So you take out the pre-construction and the build and opening was within 12 months.
Okay, does anybody else, comments, questions?
Madam President, could I ask a question?
Andy?
Your
No,
presentation,
we appreciate the opportunity, and this would be one to really kick off in Hibbing, and then, hopefully, like Betsy said, there's other projects to look at where maybe we would create a real estate fund and raise money rather than just one single project. We like to go into communities, what are the real estate needs and how can we help, so.
And Brett, I think our city attorney had a question there for you as well.
Okay.
and it's not a legal question, it's more of a general question. Your presentation tonight is fairly general with respect to this particular property. On many of the other developments that you've done, you mentioned the apartment building. It sounds like there was a target to build an apartment building right away. Have your other presentations, or when you've gone into a community, been as, I'll say non-specific as your presentation this evening with respect to, you know, what you may or may not end up doing with regard to the property?
Brett's
That
going to be able to
particular-
expound on that better
particular
than I
site.
can, because I know through the Tim Penny, the Smith Foundation, that we've gotten involved in various communities based in general terms, and we've built. Brett, you want to expand on that?
Well, yeah, I think the question was, this was sort of a generic presentation and didn't get real specific on this, on the Hibbing site. So, I thought today's meeting was, let's introduce ourselves, who we are, what we do, what our capabilities are, where we've worked in the past. We'd like to get into, the northern Minnesota Hibbing. We had met with Betsy on this particular site. We have experience, and we have a couple projects like this that we're doing, and we also have a couple that we've done in the past. So we really wanted to show more of our capabilities, and then get the paperwork or whatever from the city as to what they're looking for, and if there's an application or a request for proposal, or what the next step is to be determined.
Brett, I think the question was more towards going into a community without a specific site or a specific meeting.
Oh, without a site?
And creating a project based on
Yeah.
our
Okay.
vision.
Yeah, so what we'll do when we go into a community where there isn't a site like this, we will talk to the city, but the city really knows, the EDA really knows, these are the projects that we're working on. We don't want to reinvent the wheel or work on something that the city doesn't need, that the community doesn't need. So what are your needs? And we'll start to create a pipeline. We'll create a pipeline of different projects. We'll have 10, 12, 15 projects on there as we also begin to look at raising capital, and we'll zero it in on a few projects that are maybe low-hanging fruit, or the ones that the community needs. So over about a 6-month period, we'll identify those projects and then work with the city on at least one or two of those, or 3 or 4 over time. When we go into a city and raise capital, we deploy that capital over a 2-year period, and we work on 3, 4, 5 projects during that time frame. In this particular case, we're just going to start with this first one, because it's ripe and it's ready to go.
So for example, in Grand Rapids, in 2019, we purchased the old sawmill. Tore it down. We have since built a hotel. We have since built a strip center with 4 tenants, including Starbucks. There's 2 other outlots, plus there's an additional parcel where we're moving forward with 55 plus and or senior.
And we put a Circle K up there too.
I forgot about that.
Yep.
Betsy?
No, I was just going to say, I do think too, at this stage of the development, without a pre-development agreement signed with one or the other of the developers, investing money in, particular site plans and those sorts of things, is a little bit more, we have to get to that pre-development or development agreement first, and then that part can happen. So that's the stage that we're at.
Perfect.
Okay,
I'm good.
we are good. Thank
Thank
you
you.
both, Brett and Jeff, for telling us what you're able to do for us and sharing all of your experience.
Thank
It
you.
all
Thank you for
looks
the
good.
opportunity. Appreciate it.
And Betsy, so
Have a good
I shared a
evening.
presentation with you when we met, which I think has the verticals on it.
Yep,
If
it
you could
does.
send
I
it
will
out,
send that
that'd
out.
be great.
Yes,
Give you a
absolutely.
better idea of our different operating entities within the company.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Call me with any questions.
Yep.
Absolutely. And then presentation number 4 tonight is a loan request from Mr. Carpenter. John is here in the audience, and I'll ask you to approach the podium and talk about your project with the EDA board. Tonight, we will not be taking up the loan request because we do have to do a public hearing, but I wanted John to come and present at this time so he could answer any questions for you all. John?
What all do you need from me now?
Just talk a little bit about your project, what you're planning to do with this request.
This property is next door to my property I just sold to my boy by the Graham Bus Museum on 3rd Avenue. And it's an empty lot between me and McCallus. And I've been trying to develop it over the last 10, 12 years. It's been a lot of dirt work. And a lot of big boulders taken out of there to develop what area is ready to be constructed on. And I plan on using it for myself for my tree work and also possible rental on the other half part of it. It's about 10,000 square feet to the building. And now just tried to work in now with local people here rather than outside people as far as the bank goes with Park State Bank. And then also with Heda with Kathy Lottie. She's involved with whatever program they help.
The Northland SBDC, that's his technical assistance through the SBDC consultant is Catherine Lottie.
Okay.
So the entire loan write-up is in your packet for tonight. You'll see that the project's a little over 1.2 million. John does have his own equity in the game, and Park State Bank is lending towards the project. Global cash flow and things will allow for repayment of this loan. There's no concerns on those sorts of things. And then he has a business plan in there as well, just talking about how, what he plans to do with that site. The EDA board did approve, I believe in February, a little bit smaller building than the 10,000 square feet at that time. So he is well poised to do this next step and build the building there. One note, we will have to call for a public hearing because the loan request is for $250,000, which means it's considered a public subsidy. I had asked John before he attended tonight if he had any concerns about if this was pushed to the July 14th HEDA meeting, or if he was hoping to start construction prior to that. John, did you want to respond to that?
I just say the old saying, sooner than later, because one, some of the contractors may move on to something else, anticipating this was gonna start in April. And two, the cost of price on everything with the way this country or world is going, where costs are always constantly going up for pricing. You can only hold on so long for what price they gave for doing the project.
So he would like to request that you do a special meeting the week of June 23rd, if that's possible, to consider after the publishing of the public hearing would go tomorrow. And then I believe the soonest we could meet would be the 24th. Is that correct, Andy?
At least 10 days after the publication of the public hearing. So there's a notice of the public hearing that we provided for Betsy for the packet, just laid out this afternoon.
Yep.
So if that got signed and then presented to the paper, it's got to be at least 10 days after that publication date, whatever date that works, you pick. But that's our criteria, our requirement.
So it's 250 the line, anything above 250?
No, actually it's 150,000. And so that was my, I didn't catch that when it came in. Yeah.
Okay.
And is this an add-on to this 10,000 square feet, or is it just
No, this is a separate property.
separate?
Yeah, there's nothing built on it right now, and there never has been.
Okay.
John, this is property where you had the dog training area there? I
After
think
what?
the police were doing some dog
Right.
training in that area?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
property
they were
you're talking
using it
about,
for-
correct?
They were using it for a couple, 3-4 years.
Yep.
Training.
But that is the property we're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
Right, so later on in the agenda, it is 1C. You can consider a date that you'd want to call that public hearing for, which would have to be June 24th or later. All right?
Okay, anything else for us, John?
No, just keep moving along as soon as possible.
Thanks, John.
Okay,
Really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for coming forward.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready for 1A?
Yep.
Okay, so my first request is the request to approve the letter from AMGS to forego rent payments for June, July, and August of 2025, including the repair and maintenance fee monthly, and their working capital loan to be interest only from June through the end of 2025.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Counselor Schweberger,
Support.
supported by Counselor Hoffman-Sockman. Is there any further discussion?
Madam President, can I just note that the June draft was already done? So I believe he already paid for June. So are we intending to like reimburse him or give him a credit for that for now, or how do you want to handle that?
What do you think?
I actually don't think we paid June.
You didn't pay for June? Okay, because I know Cassie had done the Heda draft already for this month, unless you're not on the draft payments. Okay.
Are you thinking principal and interest probably for the June loan payment?
She did whatever the normal amortization is already for the month of June.
So my thoughts would be if he's paid rent for June, that, yeah, a rebate or some such, because he will have interest payments coming up between now and the end of the year. You could maybe keep that in there and apply it to the next payment if that's what's approved here tonight.
Okay, we do any other further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item B
Next.
was deleted, and item C is to approve the resolution 2506, and I will get the remaining 2 digits from Candy, she was out today, calling for a public hearing on the application of John Carpenter Properties LLC for a business subsidy from the Hibbing Economic Development Authority.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Vice President Durenas,
Support.
supported by Member Cameron. Is there any further discussion on this resolution?
Madam President, then, if you're making this motion, did you want to pick a date for a special meeting to consider this earlier than the July 14th, or did you want it on July 14th? We just have to make it part of the motion to see which way you're going on this.
So it's got to be 10 days.
Right, I think, and I agree with kind of Betsy's timeline, sometime during like June 24th or thereafter, if you're going to shoot for a special meeting. That gives us this week to get it published.
Right.
What day is June 24th land
It's a
on?
Tuesday.
It's
It's
Tuesday.
a Tuesday? Would June 24th work for everybody?
You have a commission, Public Utilities Commission meeting probably in this room at
I would-
5.
I would request you use June 25th at 5, because that's a typical council meeting night. They do not plan to meet that night, so
So instead of June 24th, we'll go June 25th?
at
At
5,
5?
if that's appropriate for you all.
So that's going to be a Wednesday.
That'll
Correct,
be a rather quick meeting.
Yes.
correct.
Okay, and we can add that right into that motion. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then we can move on to number 2, and that's going to be the Finance Director with Sheena.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. This evening, I provided you with an updated loan balance schedule that I've handed out before you this evening. Just a few items I'd like to touch on the schedule. We did have the closing for Sunrise Bakery for the old Jefferson School, so at that time, that loan was paid off. Moxie is still delinquent. We'll be discussing that later on in the agenda. Arrowhead Motorcycles also still delinquent. We'll be discussing that later on in the agenda. Prime Movers was also paid off with the purchase of the Teskey building. Iron Range Management, he just secured his last bit of financing, so he's going to move forward now with the loan documents and starting that project. And then on the deferred loan program, Mike's Pub did reach their 1-year anniversary on the deferred loan. Cassie did look at the utility and taxes. Utilities are behind. There have been some written arrangements on file with the public utilities on the account. So I'm going to reach out with Brianna and find out what her request is as far as an extension, and then when she can have those utilities caught up. She's currently past due just over $6,000 and has another $8,900 due tomorrow. So the PUC did put in the account that $6,000 would need to be paid by June 12th. So I will follow up with her, and then I'll report back to the board on that. As for now, we're not gonna write off the 1/5 until we get that caught up. For the revolving funds, for Fund 250, we currently have cash on hand of $1,135,979.80. We've committed to Iron Range Management that $144,373.30, leaving us a balance of $991,606.50. That Fund 420 storefront renovation fund has a balance of $212,911.50. And then our deferred loan program, Fund 422, has cash of $224,6093. We've committed $75,000 to Sunrise Bakery, $61,429.20 to the Howard Court, leaving us an amount available of $87,631.73. And all of our life insurance policies are off to the left there, and none of them are in a deficiency at this time. Does anybody have any questions for me?
No, looks good.
No, it looks okay. Thank you, Sheena.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, on to number 3 with City Attorney Andy Borland.
Madam President, members of the board, under A, you see approved process for disposition of Arrowhead motorcycle inventory and loan. So to give you an update as to where I am with regard to that, I had sent the demand letter to Arrowhead Motorcycle about their outstanding loans that they have to Heda. I got no response. So I have drafted and sent out for service of process a lawsuit on the balance on those notes, okay? So that's out to be served. I'll report back to Betsy as to how I do with respect to that. With respect to the inventory, that facility or that location was in the Teskey building. So by the nature of that now, Heda owns the building. And per the information I received from the staff here is that any leases that Prime Movers had with Arrowhead expired as of the end of April of this year. They hadn't paid rent for a long time before that, but they were all expired by that period of time. So there was personal property, however, remaining in the building. I'm not advising you to exercise a separate lawsuit to try and take control of that personal property based on the circumstances as to where we are. Because that would be a separate lawsuit where you would take those items against Arrowhead, get them, sell them, and then apply that towards the loan and have a separate lawsuit later. I was just going to sue against the note itself. But because Heda now owns that real estate, and it's been more than a month since anybody's been in there, their lease has expired and their rights with regard to the personal property in there, Heda still has an obligation to maintain their personal property. However, some of those items were there on consignment. Thus, they weren't Arrowhead's personal property. They were someone else's personal property. So I instructed staff to go ahead and return those items to whomever was hoping to sell them. The balance of the items, however, because it's been more than 28 days since those leases expired now, well, 2 months, or a little more, Heda could proceed to dispose of that personal property, either by selling it and having a commercial reasonable sale, where we'd have to make our best effort to notify Arrowhead that we were selling it. So essentially sending notice to the last known address we have for them, or simply not having a sale and disposing of it, and then proceed with our lawsuit. If you're able to sell it, you can charge back the cost of that sale against Arrowhead and apply the net, if there is any net balance, towards their outstanding obligation that we're suing them under right now. So that's kind of the process that I would presume that you'd want to proceed with, is either to dispose of that personal property and essentially pitch it and not seek anything for it, or if someone thinks it's cost productive to go through the process of a sale, to sell it at a commercially reasonable, like an auction or something, and then we have to give notice to Arrowhead as best we can to let them know that we're trying to sell it that way, in case they want to come and show up and bid on those items. So that's kind of where we are with regard to that process as we sit here right now.
Is that the process, would it have to be an auction?
It has to be a commercially reasonable sale. So if we were just, if the city hired an auctioneer, Heda did, and published notice of it, we're going to sell these items off, that would be that would be fine. But it has to be considered commercially reasonable, so we're not selling it to, you know, somebody who's next door to them or something, and it's just a arm's handshake transaction where they don't get the best bang for their dollar. We can't do that to Arrowhead, even though they've failed to make their payments. So we can't give it, essentially, we could throw it away, dispose of it. You're allowed to do that. Give them 14 days notice, or you can go through the process of the sale, and you have to give them 14 days notice.
So, Madam President, I will also say, Candy has been approached by 2 individuals who want to purchase the entire lot. So you could do that as long as the offers come in, they come to the EDA board, you can review them and pick one of those offers if it appears to be commercially viable.
Right. If you had anyone who has any knowledge in that area to say, that's a reasonable price for this stuff, I think you'd probably be pretty safe.
And then attribute those funds back to paying the loan.
So has there been any insurance being paid on that personal property?
Excuse
Any
me?
insurance, has there been any insurance
I have
that
no
the city
idea.
or anyone's been paying?
Don't know.
So you're looking for direction as far as how you want to go about it?
A little bit of process, yes, Member Schreiber, that'd be appreciated, yeah.
I would go with trying to get the resale value, however we do it. Doesn't make sense to me to throw away some perfectly good stuff, so
Yeah.
I would push towards that direction.
Would you like us to bring, if we solicit the 2 that have approached us for offers, bring them back to you to approve at the next meeting?
I think that would be good.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could just do it a public
Auction,
option
okay.
too, you know, rather than just the 2 people that are interested. Maybe there's other people that are interested and know more value about it. So I'd open it up more.
Right.
Good point, Member Schreiber. We could purchase, or publish like we did for the city council, a request for offers, and say that there will be a public viewing time. You can come in and see them and then make your offer after that, and tie that to the
Offer.
timeframe.
On the whole lot offer.
Yep,
Right?
yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
yep.
Yeah.
Once the consignment is removed, the entire lot, they will have to purchase the entire thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And clean it out in a reasonable fashion, you know,
Right.
after the
Yeah.
timeframe.
I think that's a good idea.
And then if Betsy can coordinate and give me that date, then we can mail that notice to Arrowhead's last known address and use that as the basis to say, okay, we'll give it at least 14 days, and then we've complied with that statute.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
So on the consignment stuff, how do we know what is, like, is there some
Yes.
type of paper trail with it?
We have a reasonable idea. Candy has a list of all of the folks that have called saying that they've consigned things. Finance has also received phone calls and has a list of the individuals, their contact, and what they say is in there. So we will do our best to match that up. We also received from prime movers the same sort of information. So Candy has indicated that she would take care of that portion of it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Betsy.
Yes? So Andy, I think we have some good direction.
Thank you, yes.
Okay.
And then we can move on to B there, Andy.
Madam President, members of the board, within your packet, there's a resolution of intention to sell real property at 1111 7th Avenue East to JT Ventures. You've approved a purchase agreement previously. We have a scheduled closing for the end of August with regard to that. But because it's Heda, Heda has to go through the process of having a hearing and so forth, a resolution to sell. So that's why we're having a resolution to have it considered at your July meeting, having a resolution tonight to say, yes, we do intend to sell this property for, I believe it's $700,000 to JT Ventures, but we have to go through the process of a public hearing to do that. So I'm asking tonight for a resolution to calling for a public hearing for your July meeting to have that, go through that process.
And we have to have a motion for that.
Yeah, motion and second for the resolution.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a motion to be able to call for a public hearing?
Madam President, I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Motion made by Member Hoffman Sockman and supported by Mayor Hyduk. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam President, with regard to C then, I have a complaint roughed out against Moxie. We have not had any response from Moxie. I think they had till around May 12th or so to respond to our demand letters. We haven't heard from them at all. So I've got it done now. My secretary just has to type it up. We are planning on going out and serving process upon them, that entity and any guarantees that were made, and just proceed with the collection proceeding. If we're able to obtain a judgment, if it isn't resolved before that, we then take Heda's direction as to whether or not they want us to collect on the judgment, whether they want to refer to RCB or someplace like that. But at this point in time, that's what I was going to go ahead and just do, because I felt like I had direction before to say, go ahead and try and get the money. So that's, we'd made the demand, we got no response, so this would be the next step.
So it's just a continuation.
Yeah, just to proceed with the collection and start the suit. Obviously, if we hear anything from Moxie, I'll relay that to Betsy, Greg, and Sheena so they knows where we are.
Madam President, and the outstanding balance is roughly $16,000 on that, which is why it makes sense to continue proceeding.
Okay, thank you for that, Betsy.
All right.
Okay, the discussion items.
So in your packet tonight is drafted developer selection criteria for the 400 block redevelopment project, including 9 criterion items. Things like experience with comparable infill and downtown projects, alignment with the city's strategic vision and goals, responsiveness to housing market demand, design quality and compatibility, community and economic impact, financial capacity and risk sharing, experience with public partnerships and incentives, team strength and capacity, and commitment to long-term stewardship. Each one of those 9 basic criterion has some verbiage underneath it that gives a little bit more meat to each one of them. And then I also included a potential weighted scoring matrix if you decide that you want to, instead of looking at the criterion and making a judgment call based on the verbiage and the narrative, if you want to also score them yourselves, say on a 1 to 5 scale in each of these areas, and then take all of that information and average it for both developers, and then come together and average them out over the entire board, and then make a decision that way. I wanted to get your input tonight on how you'd like to proceed with criteria to make that decision, and what are your thoughts on that?
Anybody have any comments?
First glance at this, it looks great, you know, you've got a lot of good information on here. So you're looking at, I mean, I'd like to read through it and that type of thing before we adopt it.
Right, so my thoughts would be, you take it home tonight, you have some conversation, you look at it, you compare I can send out this criteria and the 2 presentations that you've received verbally or here at the EDA board meetings, and you can sort of compare them and see if you have enough information to weigh with these criteria, if you like the criteria, those sorts of things. If you want more information from either of the developers, you could respond back to me that way as well and say, I'd like more information from this developer and this particular criteria. And then in July, we could come back together and look at the potential of either selecting the criteria and moving the decision into August. That does impinge a little bit on the IRRR's timeframe that they've told us that they'd like to work on for that gap financing. But, you know, you do need to sort of give yourself time to make a good decision. So it's okay to wait till August as well if that's what you prefer. And then you could adopt the criteria and then do the scoring at a subsequent meeting. Or you could adopt the criteria and do the scoring prior, you know, and bring it in. And then we could average it out at that time. Depends on how you want to proceed.
And this is criteria not only on this project, but on future projects.
Yeah, it could be used
Same.
that way. Or you could sort of tweak it each time if you know, wanted to take different things into account. Like the redevelopment on the Beltline isn't a historic district, so you might not consider historic district experience in that particular redevelopment project. But yes, it could be. Also, you know, it's just a guideline at this point, so if you have things that you'd like to insert into the criteria or remove, you're, you know, able to do that as well, because it's just a draft. I did draft this criteria with input from Gina Fiorini from Kubak Rock, our bond counsel, and Michaela Hewitt from Baker Tilly, who is our municipal advisor or financial advisor on this particular project. And then just looked at some best practices that I've seen out, you know, in other communities when they've done this kind of work. And put it together and brought it to the finance committee, which our finance team had a chance to look at it as well, and just weigh in on it.
Anybody have any questions for Betsy on this? No?
So you're looking to get to one final RFP or
Well, at this point, we don't
well,
have
we
to.
are, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we don't have to take a step back and publish an official RFP. We do have 2 developers that you're looking at.
Right.
You can just use this criteria to evaluate both developers and make a choice to move forward.
Apply to both.
But I think it's something that could be done, July. I mean, I don't know if we have to push it out to August. We've got most of the information that we need, so let's get it moving.
Right, and as you look at it then, if you have questions that you want additional answers to, feel free to send them to me and I'll get you additional answers from whichever developer you need. Mhm. They've both been very responsive.
That sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's the end of our,
One other item then from my office is, I did put this because I received a letter from the Hibbing Parents Nursery School right before the meeting. And I asked them to come and present it in July. They are requesting an extension of the current lease from July 15th to August 15th. But I said that you probably would not be prepared to make a decision, having just received it 5 minutes ago, prior to the meeting. So they're prepared to come and chat with you again on July 14th to make this extension request.
It's not a difficult one. I mean, is it? I guess the question, just, excuse me, Madam Chair, just a question of clarity. What do we have planning for that property right now that could hinder an extension for them?
Mr. Mayor, nothing. It was just, I didn't have a chance to update
Okay.
the agenda.
Okay.
It was physically logistics, mainly that. And then also to let Andy know, hey, can you update a lease and bring it tonight with the new deadline,
Okay.
you know?
Just so you have the proper paperwork is all
Yeah,
yours.
yeah,
very
just
good.
to make sure that we go through, and they did ask me what I felt the board's temperament on that would be, and I said, well, they have zero, rationale or reasoning to shut down a childcare. I said, they've been really supportive of you all the way through. So, you know, my thoughts are it would be okay to do this extension, but I just
Yeah.
logistically couldn't get it on the agenda at the last
Very good.
minute.
I do have one quick thing.
okay.
And just kind of a quick review, so we're getting close to the finish of the ANGS building and the build.
Yep.
Might just be me, but if we're gonna get updates, you know, about the build, we can maybe do it like maybe quarterly, every 3 months as it's going rather than the monthly. And I don't know what the rest of the board thinks. I mean, if something big happens, yeah, we should know about it, but if he's gonna come here and say, everything was safe, everything is looking good, you know, like essentially that's what which is great, that's what we wanna hear. But usually, you know, no news is good news in the building part of it all. But I don't know, it's up to the rest of the board. What do you think?
I also agree with that.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm thinking we will have, like, the 400 block project, right? That's gonna be a big project too. So if you're
Correct.
thinking that you'd rather sort of string those out a little bit more, we could absolutely do that. Maybe it's a written summary that they provide that you can just see in your packet, and then they come more infrequently, you're thinking?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Sure, sure.
I mean, just because it's something new that we tried with
Yeah.
this build, so just so, before I forget about that little tidbit.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think that's a wonderful
That's
idea.
a great
And I
idea.
appreciate the tweak on that, so, you know, we can try things and do different things. Appreciate that, yep.
Betsy, would it, if it's not too much trouble, can you send this form that you just did and this current proposal and the other one?
Yep.
All in one email, so we have everything together?
Yep,
Compare.
Yeah, to compare.
That would be nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
that will be coming to you shortly, yes.
great, thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Because we are at the end of our agenda, so. if
I'll
there's
make a
nothing
motion
else,
for adjournment, Madam Chair.
Adjourn. Motion made by Mayor Hyduk, supported by Councilor Schweberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.